If they violated my constitutional rights, if they trampled on the separation of powers involving me, I'm going to sue the hell out of these people.
Of course he is. With our money. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm, of course, Paul Glasgow here, the one and only truth pimp, dealing you a vulgar display of logic and reason on a daily basis. Hope nobody's listening to this conversation between us right now, because I don't have an endless supply of money to sue the federal government for illegally spying on me, and like the Carolina cornholer just said, separation of powers. We don't have that luxury. I'll give you a really quick lead up to this video clip because I want to make sure you have enough information to understand what they're saying here. But they're going to be talking about a potential lawsuit by these 9 senators to sue for $500,000. They were trying to slide in and hide a provision in the latest reopening of the government bill that just got signed yesterday, spending bill. And they were trying to hide and sneak by us where they could sue the federal government. We're talking about these 9 U.S. senators, where they could sue the federal government for $500,000 each one of them, and that the American public, us, the taxpayers, would pay that. Federal government doesn't have money that they didn't take from us. This is probably the first time in my life that I've ever agreed with Taco Bell Barack Obama, because this guy is adamantly against Senator Graham and the other folks in his little crew taking money from the American public on something like this. Now, granted, no Democrats had their records subpoenaed, so that's why the Democrats are okay with this. If any Democrats were involved, they'd be right behind the Carolina cornholer on all of this. But here's that clip that describes that.
Provision is written. It's tucked away on page 217 through 229 of the funding bill. Senators could bring lawsuits and sue the federal government using taxpayer money if federal law enforcement seizes or subpoenas their data without notifying them. The damages could mean each senator could get $500,000 for each violation. Senator Lindsey Graham was one of the senators who later found out that his data got into the hands of Jack Smith's team. Here he is a few weeks ago. Watch.
If they violated my constitutional rights, if they trampled on the separation of powers involving me, I'm going to sue the hell out of these people.
Democrats in the House not amused by this. In fact, the leader of the party, Hakeem Jeffries, hoping some Republicans cross the aisle to join Democrats and take this provision out before it's passed.
The notion that 8 Republican senators signed off by John Thune and the Republicans, apparently in the Senate and in the House, would give themselves the ability, essentially, to rip millions of taxpayer dollars away from the American people so they could line their pockets?
Again, this is the first time that I believe that I ever can remember, at least in the more recent history, that I agreed with Timu Barack Obama here, because this is not something that the American people should be paying for, right? Don't you agree? Let's talk a little bit about that surveillance. And I'm not talking about the Hollywood version. I'm not talking about the conspiracy version. I'm talking about the real version of surveillance by the federal government. The one that the federal government uses to vacuum up over 1 trillion phone records a year, mostly from ordinary law-abiding Americans. You know, people just like me and people just like you. Now, for the most part, none of these politicians ever speak out on this. In fact, Lindsey Graham has always supported the illegal surveillance of Americans. Always. He's been behind all of that. There's not a bomb Lindsey wouldn't drop on another country, and there's not an honest law-abiding American that Lindsey Graham wouldn't illegally surveil. So it's kind of odd that he's speaking out now. Of course, we know why. Apparently, none of this illegal surveillance has ever been an issue for any of these people. According to Washington, it's all necessary. It just keeps us safe, according to them. Nothing to worry about. Just a little bit of metadata that we're looking at. That's what they all say, like the Carolina cornholer, until this dragnet includes them. Then they get pissed off about it.
Should we file a lawsuit?
Oh, definitely. And if you think I'm going to sell this thing for $1 million, no. I want to make it so painful no one ever does this again.
Ah, yes, the Carolina cornholer who spent his career saying if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't worry about us looking into your personal stuff. Really? Because the second the government accessed his phone records in the Jack Smith investigation, old Carolina cornholer didn't just worry, he lost his frickin' mind. Suddenly, the Patriot Act isn't so patriotic after all, according to Lindsey. Suddenly, government metadata collection is unconstitutional, according to Lindsey. Oh, and suddenly, privacy is a right, according to Lindsey now, because it's pointed at him. The Carolina cornholer voted for every single unconstitutional thing that is aimed back at the American people to illegally surveil them. Everything. This guy has voted for the Patriot Act, the Patriot Act reauthorization, FISA expansions, Section 702 warrantless surveillance, NSA metadata programs, telecom data sharing, increased FBI authority. He supported all of this. I guess with the pinky promise that it would never be aimed at him. Otherwise, he was cool with it. But now he wants to sue the federal government because it was used on him. The same stuff he voted for. The same stuff he, quote, legalized the federal government to do to American citizens. I guess he forgot that not only is he one of the American elite, he's still an American citizen. So by technicality, all these things he voted for include him. This is the part that pisses me off. He's going to use taxpayer money to try to sue the government for spying on him using laws he supported to spy on you. Lindsey Graham, a multimillionaire, isn't reaching into his own pocket to sue. He's planning to use congressional legal budgets, the Office of General Counsel, federal appropriations, DOJ's own resources, taxpayer-funded institutional lawyers. Yeah, he's a tough guy. Talks tough, right? Yeah, I'm going to sue them. They haven't heard the last of me. I'll break these numbers down at a high level, but roughly per lawsuit, the federal government, this is not including the $500,000 that would end up going to Lindsey Graham. By the way, it's per instance. So if they sought his records 3 times, that's $1.5 million. 500,000, 500,000, 500,000. But that's the tip of the iceberg, the cost to the American people. Remember, Lindsey, it makes me so mad talking about this stuff. You're going to have to forgive me a couple of times because I have to laugh to not shout and get angry. Hopefully the veins aren't popping out of my forehead. Lindsey is going to use our money to sue the federal government, and then the federal government will pay him some of our money that he puts into his pocket. So he's going to use, estimates are between $3 million and $10 million per lawsuit. So there's 9 guys out there right now. So we're looking at a potentially $90 million legal fees that we're going to foot the bill for. To turn around and pay $500,000 to 9 guys if it was only one instance of collection each time. Because they were wanting to put this on. Now, by the way, this got voted down. It doesn't mean it's not going to come back up again. I want you to know that. This is not in effect right now. I wanted you to see where their minds are, how they see themselves as elite and us as the little old plebes. But yeah, $10 million probably on the high end of what it would cost the federal government per person, and $500,000 per person per instance paid back to them. So use, let's call it $100 million of our money, to pay them back all this money that they get to pocket. Can I break those numbers down a little bit for you? Because I want you to understand we're talking about real money here, and we're talking about, this isn't my opinion. This is stuff that I looked up and found. If Lindsey uses congressional lawyers, which he likely will, they're salaried employees. By the way, if you want to be an attorney, go to D.C., right? Unless you are a decent person, don't do it. Average congressional in-house litigation costs $400 to $700 per hour. These attorneys are making 500 to 1,500 hours per lawsuit at that rate, right? So $300,000 to $1 million on the super low end estimate of what it could cost. Now, let's look a little bit on the higher end. More of file prep, motions, hearings, appeals. That's if Graham sues the government must defend itself, right? That's if they don't just settle. We're looking at $1.5 to $3 million in those types of lawsuits. It ain't going to stop there. You heard Lindsey run his mouth. So if they have to go into discovery, carriers must respond. Government must produce classified information. Agencies are fighting over redactions. That's another $1 to $2 million on top of the $3 million that we're already paying. If it goes to appeals, which is very, very likely in this case, district court, court of appeals, possible Supreme Court, each stage adds numbers, money, filings, briefs, things of that nature. Add on another $1 to $2.5 million on top of what we've already collected at this point. Final realistic total on the low end would be about $1 million. A realistic total in the middle is $6 million, with that high end being greater than $10 million. That's how we get to those numbers. Remember, taxpayers would pay all of this money. Lindsey Graham would pay none of this money. Lindsey Graham will still support the same surveillance powers being used on you that he just sued the federal government over. Now let's remember, you and I don't get to sue when our data is swept up in these NSA metadata type programs. We don't get lawyers when the DHS pulls your tower location and asks for those records. We don't get notice when the FBI queries our phone logs through Section 702. Think about that. This only came about either through discovery or some other process that this was even asked for. How many times do you think your phone records were requested and you don't have a clue? Did you go to Washington, D.C. on January 6th, the big riot? No, I'm sorry, the insurrection. Did you go? Chances are your phone records were subpoenaed, along with tens of thousands of other phone records just from that very day. Biggest thing we don't get a team of federal attorneys when our metadata gets flagged by AT&T Hemisphere system, which hoovers up about 4 billion phone records per day. Notice how when Lindsey Graham gets scooped up in all this, it's unconstitutional, illegal, outrageous, I'm going to sue. What if that happened? What if you even knew it happened to you? What if they told you whenever they were requesting your information and looking into your phone records? What you going to do? You're going to sue them? You're going to use this as precedent?
And whether you like me or not or agree with my politics, it should bother you greatly that a United States senator would be, his phone records or her phone records would be subpoenaed by the FBI 30 months later with no reason to believe I'm involved in any crime. It is really an abuse of the process.
See, that statement, out of all of them that I've shown and listened to from Lindsey Graham on this topic, that statement alone pisses me off more than ever, more than any of the other ones. Because Lindsey has never been able to read the room, right? Lindsey doesn't even see what he's saying, how offensive it is. He's saying in his own words that the American people should be outraged, not that our phone records are being subpoenaed. He's saying that the American people should be outraged that his phone records are being subpoenaed. Did you pick up on that?
And whether you like me or not or agree with my politics, it should bother you greatly that a United States senator would be, his phone records or her phone records would be subpoenaed by the FBI.
That's the sign of somebody who sees themselves as the elite and sees you and sees me as less than them. That is a clear distinction right there. This guy in his own mind thinks he's better than you because of where he goes to work, if you can call it work. This is by far a two-tier system of American privacy. There's no doubt. Tier 1 would include politicians like Lindsey and all the other elites out there who think they're elite. And again, from a federal standpoint and legal standpoint, I guess they are, because the law will treat them differently. They can sue the government. They get federal lawyers. They get immunity. They get judicial sympathy. They get taxpayer-funded defense. Tier 2, that's us. No lawyer, no immunity, no answers, no accountability, no recourse, no privacy, no refund. If you ever needed proof that the surveillance system was never about stopping terrorism, this is it now. You're watching it. Watching Lindsey Graham freak out over his metadata while ignoring yours is the clearest example I've ever seen in my entire life. The government has built a surveillance dragnet that is so big that it captures probably on a low end 200 to 250 million Americans per year. Now, I have to believe that number probably should be higher because it should be 330 million because I'm sure they surveil every single American out there. Think about this. American adults, which this was a number that kind of surprised me because I expected it to be 100. American adults, 95% of them have cell phones. Now, granted that other 5% could be people in prison, old folks' homes, and things like that. That's probably what it is. I expected the number to be at 100% because even those people have cell phones, prisoners and people in old folks' homes. But Lindsey Graham has supported this surveillance system every single time a vote came up for it. Lindsey Graham has defended this openly, this type of illegal surveillance. He's even mocked critics of it. Again, this guy was perfectly fine with you getting spied on. It's whenever he got spied on that he got pissy. Now he wants justice. Now he wants rights. Now he wants accountability. He just wants you and I to pay for it. And again, he pockets the bread from that. This man walks off with the bag of cash after he used our money to get it. I got to ask you guys, am I wrong on this one? Because I'm feeling pretty good about where I stand on this one. But I will never, ever support any of these guys crying about this kind of stuff. Because what I would like to see, I would like to see them get surveilled even more. Surveil them harder. Maybe if you piss off enough of the right people in the Senate or in Congress, or anywhere in D.C. for that matter, maybe if you piss enough of them off, what am I thinking? Nope, let's scratch that thought. I was going to say maybe if you piss enough of them off, they'll understand how we feel, but they won't. They'll pass another law the next time around when we're not looking, when everything's kind of going smoothly. They'll pass one of these laws that got shot down this time, where they can sue the federal government for our money, using our money. I'm going to make a prediction right now that within the next year or two, a law like this will get passed. It's just not getting passed right now because it made too much noise. As soon as a Democrat, one, gets involved in this same type of dragnet, they're all going to be in for it. Because I can tell you another thing. You know why Lindsey's so mad? Lindsey's boyfriends out there probably are in those phone records. And Lindsey's not out of the closet. Lindsey probably has, at least from a reputation standpoint, a lot to lose if any of his seedy stuff comes to light. And that's the type of stuff. That's not including the illegal stuff that he's likely involved in. If you could subpoena these people in Congress's phone records, or maybe their text records, or their metadata on what their apps they're on. You want to find out how they're involved in all this insider trading and how they come from making $174,000 a year to $29 million a year? Subpoena that data. That's more along the lines of the type of stuff that pisses Lindsey Graham off. The fact that he's going to be outed for his sexual preference and the fact that you're going to find out how he became a multi-millionaire. Guys, if you liked the video, please subscribe. Please comment down below if you think I'm wrong. If you have other information to put into this. Look, I may do another video on this type of stuff later because the surveillance information is off the charts on how we're being surveilled out there. It just so happens that Lindsey's mad about it because it came through his phone record. So let me know your thoughts on that. Guys, share the video if you get a chance. Thanks as always for watching Legally Owned America. Don't forget, guys, if you're looking for a book to educate yourself and to educate the idiots out there who can't think for themselves regarding mass shootings, go to damnliars.net. Again, damnliars.net, and get my brand new book, Damn Liars.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.